Hi everyone, I'm PO1, Tessa Callahan, 31, stationed at Naval Station Norfolk. I work logistics and admin, which basically means I'm the person people come to when paperwork is on fire and they want it put out without anyone noticing. I'm good at it. Not golden child good, just competent enough that my chief doesn't have to babysit me. That morning was normal. PT quick shower uniform, coffee that tasted like regret, then straight into the day's mess. A shipment that didn't match the manifest. A request that needed signatures from someone who was definitely in a meeting. 2 junior sailors trying to argue their way out of doing the job they were literally paid to do. The usual. My phone buzzed while I was at my desk. I glanced down and saw Grandpa Walter's name. I picked up on the first ring like I always did. "Morning, Tess," he said. His voice was steady, warm, like he was calling from his kitchen table with a cup of coffee and a newspaper he'd already read twice. "Morning, Grandpa. You eating?" I asked. "I am. You don't lie." "I'm drinking coffee," I said. "That counts." "No, it doesn't," he replied immediately. "Coffee is not a food group. I didn't raise you to live off caffeine and stubbornness." He said that every time, and every time it made me smile. Not because it was clever, because it was him. Because he remembered. Because he cared enough to call, even when my parents couldn't be bothered to text me back, unless they needed something. "I've got duty stuff," I said, keeping my voice low because my office wasn't exactly a place for heartfelt conversations. "But I'll grab something, I promise." "Good," he said. "And I'm not calling to nag. I just wanted to check in. You've been working a lot." "Yeah," I said. "It's fine. Busy season." There was a pause, the kind where he wasn't pushing, but he wasn't letting me slide either. "You still coming out next month?" he asked. "I'm trying," I said. "Depends on the schedule." "Try harder," he said, and I could hear the smile in his voice. "I'm not getting any younger, kid." "I know," I said. "I'm working on it." He didn't say "I love you" in some dramatic way. Grandpa Walter wasn't that kind of guy. But he always ended calls the same way. "Be smart," he said. "Watch your back and eat." "Yes, sir," I said automatically. He chuckled. "Don't yes, sir me. I'm not your chief." He hung up and I sat there for a second staring at my monitor like I'd forgotten how to read. Then I shook it off and got back to work. That was the rhythm of my life. Get things done, keep moving, don't make problems, don't ask for much. That last part wasn't Navy training. That was family training. My parents, Ron and Diane Callahan, loved my older sister Brittany like she was a brand. Like her existence was proof they did parenting right. Brittany was 35, married, 2 kids. A house she liked to call our forever home every time she wanted someone to clap for her. She was the kind of person who turned normal life choices into public service announcements. When she got engaged, my parents threw a party. When she got pregnant, my parents cried. When I made PO1, my mom said, "That's nice, Tess," and asked if I was still doing that Navy thing, or if it was just temporary. I used to think it would change when I got older. Like maybe at some point, they'd realize I wasn't a phase. I wasn't a backup plan. I wasn't the kid they accidentally had to make the family feel complete. I was just me, and that apparently wasn't exciting enough. Grandpa Walter was the only person who never treated me like I needed to earn a spot at the table. He'd call, he'd ask about my day, he'd remember my deployment dates, he'd remind me to get my oil changed like I was still 17, and he had to keep me alive through sheer stubbornness. So when my phone rang again later that day, I didn't expect what I saw. It was my mom. She never called in the middle of a workday unless it was bad news or she wanted something. I stepped out into the hallway because, even though I'm in the Navy, I still have the basic human instinct to not take family chaos at full volume in public. "Hello," I said. "Tess?" she said, and her voice was flat. "No, how are you?" "No, are you at work?" Just my name like she was checking a box. "What's going on?" I asked. There was a pause and my stomach tightened before she even spoke. I've known my mother long enough to hear the weather in her silence. "Your grandfather's gone," she said. For a second, everything went quiet, not the hallway. The hallway still had footsteps and doors and someone laughing down the hall. But inside my head, it was like a switch flipped. What I said, one word, that's all I could get out. "He passed this morning," she said. "The hospital called." My throat went tight so fast it surprised me. Grandpa had sounded fine earlier. He'd joked. He'd nagged me about eating. He'd told me to come visit. I leaned my shoulder against the wall because my legs suddenly felt like they forgot their job. "No," I said like saying it could rewind time. "No, that can't be right. I just talked to him." "Well, it is," my mom said, and there it was. Not grief, not shock, just Impatience. Like I was making this inconvenient. Did you? I started, then stopped. Did you go? Did you hold his hand? Did you say goodbye? I already knew the answer. If my mom had been there, she would have told me. She would have made it part of the story where she was the hero. We're handling it, she said. And his attorney is going to call. He left a will. The word will landed weird, like it didn't belong in the same sentence as your grandfather's gone. I don't care about that, I said. My voice cracked on the last word, and I hated that it did. What happened? Was he in pain? He was old, she said. Tess, don't do this right now. We have enough going on. Don't do this. Don't have feelings. Don't ask questions. Don't make it about you. I swallowed hard. When is the service, I asked. We'll tell you, she said, if you can get time off. If you can. Like I was asking permission to show up for my own grandfather. Okay, I said, because my brain was running on empty, and okay was the only thing I could manage. Then she added like she'd been holding it back on purpose. Brittany's taking this really hard. Of course she was. Brittany was always the headline. I didn't even have the energy to be mad. I just felt hollow. I have to go, I said. And I hung up before she could say anything else. I stood there with my phone in my hand, staring at the screen like it might explain how a man could sound fine in the morning and be gone by lunchtime. I went back into my office, sat down and stared at my computer. My email was open. A supply request was waiting. Someone had sent me a message about a missing signature. None of it mattered, but all of it still existed. The world didn't pause because mine did. My chief walked by my desk and saw my face. Callahan, he said, softer than usual. You good? I tried to answer and nothing came out. He didn't push. He just nodded once like he understood without needing the details. Take 5, he said. Then come find me. I nodded, stood up, and walked straight to the restroom because I refused to be the person crying in the office. I locked myself in a stall, put my hand over my mouth, and finally let one shaky breath out. Then my phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't my mom. It was a number I didn't recognize, but the voicemail transcription popped up instantly. Caleb Wexler, attorney at law. My fingers went numb as I hit play. Ms. Callahan. The message said I'm calling regarding Walter Hayes' estate. Please contact my office at your earliest convenience. There are time-sensitive items we need to review. Time-sensitive. Estate review. My grandfather was barely gone, and the world was already turning him into documents. I stared at the screen until it dimmed. When I walked back out, I didn't go straight to my chief. I went outside behind the building where the wind off the water hit my face and made everything feel too real. I called Brittany. She didn't pick up. I called again. Nothing. Then my phone lit up with a text from her. No, are you okay? No, I'm so sorry. Just this. We need to talk about Grandpa's house. For family harmony. I reread it once, then twice, and I felt something cold settle in my chest. Because my sister didn't even wait for the funeral. She was already reaching for what she thought she deserved. My thumb hovered over Brittany's text like it was going to bite me, and for a second, I actually considered throwing my phone into the nearest patch of grass. Instead, I put it in my pocket, walked back inside, and found my chief. Chief Marcus Webb was the kind of leader who didn't need to raise his voice to make you straighten up. He was calm, sharp, and allergic to nonsense, which is probably why I trusted him more than most people I shared DNA with. He looked up from his computer when I walked in. You got a situation, he said, not as a question. My grandfather passed, I said. I kept it short, because if I tried to say more, my throat would lock up again. His expression shifted. I'm sorry, Callahan. Thank you, I said. The words felt small. He nodded once. You need to make calls, handle your leave. Do it. I'll cover what I can. That was it. No drama, no guilt. No, well, your sister must be devastated. Just a straight line from problem to solution. It shouldn't have felt rare, but it did. I walked back to my desk and called the attorney. Caleb Wexler answered on the second ring, like he'd been waiting. His voice was polite, professional, and just tired enough to sound like he'd spent his whole career talking to families who only show up when money's involved. Petty Officer Callahan, he said. I'm sorry for your loss. Thanks, I said. I got your message. What do I need to know? He didn't waste time. Your grandfather's will is straightforward. He named you and your sister as the primary beneficiaries. There are a few items that require signatures and identification, and we'll need to schedule a meeting as soon as you're able. My brain was still stuck on the word will, like it was a foreign language. Can you tell me what it says? I asked. There was a brief pause, like he was deciding how to say it, without setting off fireworks. Yes, he said carefully. You've been left Mr. Hayes' residence and an investment account valued at approximately $200,000. Your sister, Ms. Brittany Callahan, has been left a certificate of deposit account valued at approximately $400,000. I stared at my monitor, but the words didn't stick at first. House, 200,000, Brittany, 400,000. What I said because apparently my mouth only knew one reaction today. I can email you a summary, he said, but I'd prefer to go over it in person to ensure you understand the process. My sister got 400,000, I asked, just to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. Yes, he said. And you were left the home. I exhaled through my nose. Of course Brittany got more cash. Because Brittany always got the easy version. But the house was Grandpa. That was his porch where he'd sit with his coffee and wave at neighbors like he was running for mayor. That was the kitchen, where he'd insist on making me pancakes when I visited, even when I was grown and fully capable of feeding myself. That was the place where I'd spent entire afternoons, fixing little things for him, tightening a loose railing, replacing a smoke detector, cleaning gutters, while he stood below and yelled advice like he was the foreman. Do you have a letter from him? I asked. My voice came out steadier than I felt. Yes, Caleb said. He included a personal letter addressed to you. It's part of the file. I can provide it when we meet. Okay, I said. I'm on duty. I'll schedule leave and come in. Understood, he said. One more thing. We've already received a call from your sister asking if there's a way to alter the distribution. My grip tightened on the phone. Already. Yes, he said. I told her the will is legally sound. Your grandfather executed it properly, and there are no grounds to contest based on what we have. There it was, the part I'd been trying not to believe. Grandpa wasn't even buried yet, and Brittany was already shopping for loopholes. Thank you, I said, and I meant it. After I hung up, I sat still for a moment staring at my inbox. A sailor walked past my desk and asked if I had the updated roster. I nodded like a robot and forwarded it, because muscle memory still worked even when my heart didn't. Then my phone buzzed again. Brittany again. Don't ignore me. We need to do the right thing. I didn't respond. I opened my notes app instead and started typing. Not feelings. Facts. Call from Mom 1217. Grandfather's gone. Text from Brittany 206. We need to talk about Grandpa's house. For family harmony. Voicemail from attorney 342. Estate time sensitive. It wasn't revenge. Not yet. It was habit. In the Navy, if it isn't documented, it didn't happen. And my family had spent my whole life rewriting reality depending on what made Brittany look best. I wasn't doing that game anymore. I went to admin and started the leave request process. While I was filling out forms, my mom texted, "Call me." So I did. Because part of me still wanted to believe my mom could be a mom, not just Brittany's publicist. She answered on the first ring like she'd been waiting to pounce. Tess, she said, finally. Mom, I said. I talked to the lawyer. Oh, so you know, she said. Good. Then we can be practical. I swallowed. Practical about what? A sigh heavy and theatrical about the house. Of course. I started. Listen. She cut in. Brittany is taking this very hard. She has children. You're gone all the time. You don't need that house. The old script. The one where my needs didn't exist unless they were convenient. It's Grandpa's house, I said. He left it to me. And Brittany got the savings, my mom said, like she was correcting a child. So it's not like she's getting nothing. She got $400,000. I said, keeping my voice low because I was still at work, and I didn't want my grief turning into a public performance. That money will go fast, my mom snapped. Do you know how expensive kids are? Daycare alone. Mom, I said. Stop, this isn't about daycare. It is about family, she said sharper now. We have to keep peace. There it was again. Family harmony. Peace. Translation. Brittany gets what she wants and everyone else shuts up. I'm not signing anything, I said. Silence. Thick, angry silence. Then my mom's voice changed. It got colder, flatter. So you're going to do this, she said. After everything we've done for you. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was so predictable I could have set my watch to it, like what I asked before I could stop myself. Don't be disrespectful, she said. We supported you. You supported Brittany, I said, and the words came out clean. No yelling, just truth. Another silence. Then she went for the kill shot. If you want to come home for the service, she said, you'll do the right thing. You'll let Brittany handle the house. Sign it over, or don't bother coming home at all. My chest tightened so fast it felt like I'd been punched. Not because she threatened me, because she said it like it was normal. Like cutting me off was just another tool in her purse. I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I just stared at the wall in my office and felt something settle into place. Okay, I said quietly. What she snapped like she expected screaming. Okay, I repeated. I heard you. And I ended the call. I sat there for a second with my phone in my hand. Then I did the most Navy thing I could possibly do. I got organized. I turned on two-factor authentication for every account I could think of. Email banking, retirement. Even the stupid grocery app that somehow always knows when I'm about to run out of coffee. I changed passwords. I checked if any of my security questions had answers Brittany would guess, like my mother's maiden name or my first pet. I updated them anyway. Then I opened my contacts and typed in Caleb Wexler's email address with one clear sentence. Please direct all communication regarding Walter Hayes' estate to me through your office. I do not authorize any family member to speak or act on my behalf. I hit send. My phone buzzed immediately after like the universe had timing issues. A text from Brittany. If you really loved Grandpa, you wouldn't do this to us. I stared at it and I felt my jaw tighten. Because my sister had the nerve to turn the man who called me every week into a weapon. I didn't reply. I opened my leave request again. Selected the earliest flight I could book that wouldn't get me in trouble, and I paid for it with the kind of calm that only comes when you finally stop hoping people will change. Then I went back to my desk and finished the paperwork that was due by 1600, because the Navy doesn't care that your family is falling apart. And honestly, neither did I anymore. I bought the flight with my jaw clenched so hard I could feel it in my ears, then shoved my phone face down like that would stop my family from existing. It didn't. The next couple days were a blur of duty grief and logistics. The Navy didn't slow down because my life got punched in the throat. I still had to show up. Still had to sign off on requests. Still had to keep other people's mistakes from turning into my problem. I also had to get through a 12-hour shift without snapping at anyone who said, "Sorry about your grandpa," like it was the same as sorry, your car got a flat. Chief Webb checked on me once a day. He didn't hover. He didn't try to be my therapist. He just asked, "You squared away," and let me answer however I needed. My family, on the other hand, had no interest in whether I was okay. They were interested in whether I was compliant. Brittany texted every day, sometimes sweet, sometimes sharp. My mom sent call-me messages like summons. My dad stayed quiet, which in our family is never a good sign. Quiet is what happens right before he decides he's the voice of authority. I kept doing what I do best. I focused on what I could control. I confirmed my meeting with Caleb Wexler. I requested the death certificate copies he said I'd need. I made a list of things to handle at the house, forwarding mail, checking utilities, changing locks, reviewing insurance because I knew Brittany had access through my mother's spare key. That detail sat in the back of my mind like an itch. Then, on a Wednesday morning, right after muster, I got an email that made my stomach drop. Subject line, listing inquiry. 1148 Willow Ridge Drive. Willow Ridge was Grandpa's street. I opened the message, and for a second, I couldn't process it. It was from a real estate agent named Janet Bloom. Polite, upbeat tone, lots of exclamation points. The kind of email you send when you assume you're about to get paid. Hi Tessa, just checking in to see if you're still planning to list the property this month. I spoke with your sister Brittany last week, and she said she was helping you get things moving. Let me know your timeline, and we can set up a quick call. I stared at it, reread it. Then reread it again like the words might rearrange themselves into something less insane. My sister had called a realtor. My sister had told a realtor she was helping me list Grandpa's house. My sister had created a whole alternate reality where I'd apparently asked for her assistance. I didn't reply. I called the number in the email. Janet answered on the first ring, bright and cheerful. Hi, Janet Bloom. This is Tessa Callahan, I said. About the email you sent. Oh, hi, Tessa, she said. I'm so sorry for your loss. Brittany mentioned your grandfather passed. My throat tightened. Yes, he did. Again, I'm sorry, she said quickly, then moved right into business. Like grief was just another step in the process. So are you thinking we list right away? Brittany said you're stationed in Norfolk, and she can help coordinate access. No, I cut in sharper than I meant to. I took a breath. No, I am not listing the house. I have not authorized anyone to speak for me. And Brittany is not representing me. There was a beat of silence on her end. The cheerful tone dimmed like a light switch. Oh, she said. Okay, that's not what I understood. What exactly did Brittany tell you, I asked. Janet cleared her throat. She said you wanted to sell quickly to keep things simple. She said it would help with Family stuff. Family stuff. That phrase made my skin crawl. Did she ask you to come by the house? I asked. Yes, Janet said. She said she had access and could provide photos. My hand tightened on the phone. Did you go inside? No, Janet said a little defensive now. I didn't personally go inside. She sent photos she took herself. It looked like she was already working on prepping the place. Photos. She sent photos. That was almost worse in a way, because it meant Brittany had already been inside the house, walking through Grandpa's living room, aiming her phone at his furniture, like it was a listing, not a life. Can you forward me everything she sent you? I asked. Emails, texts, photos, anything. Janet hesitated. Yes, I can forward emails. Texts might be complicated. Forward what you can, I said, keeping my voice steady. And I need you to make a note in your system that Brittany Callahan is not authorized to access the property, not authorized to represent me, and not authorized to list anything. If anyone contacts you claiming otherwise, I want you to call me directly. Okay, Janet said. Her voice had lost all sparkle. I'm sorry. I didn't realize. I know, I said. I'm not blaming you. I was blaming Brittany. I hung up and sat there staring at my desk, trying to keep my breathing even. In the Navy, you learn how to compartmentalize. You learn how to keep your face neutral while your brain is screaming. It's a useful skill when you're troubleshooting a supply disaster. It's also a useful skill when your sister is trying to sell your grandfather's house out from under you. My phone buzzed. A text from Brittany. Just so you know, I'm trying to help. You're overwhelmed. It's fine. I didn't answer. Instead, I opened my notes app and added another entry. Janet Bloom, email received Wednesday, September 21st. Realtor contact initiated by Brittany. Unauthorized. Then I forwarded the email to Caleb Wexler with one line. My sister is contacting realtors and claiming she represents me. Please advise. A minute later, my email pinged with Janet's forwarded files. I clicked the attachments. The first photo was the living room. Grandpa's brown recliner near the window. The lamp with the crooked shade he refused to replace. The small table next to the chair where he always kept his phone and a notepad because he liked writing things down. Even though he owned a perfectly good smartphone, he never trusted. I stared at the chair until my eyes blurred. Then I clicked the next photo. Kitchen. Countertops. Cabinets. Sink. The calendar on the wall, still on last month, because Grandpa always forgot to flip it until I did it for him. Then the hallway, the guest room, the back door. Each photo felt like someone had walked through my chest with dirty boots. I didn't care about the house as a property. I cared because it was his. And because he'd trusted me with it. And Brittany treated it like a bargaining chip. I leaned back, closed my eyes, and thought about the spare key. My mom had mentioned years ago that Grandpa kept a spare with her, just in case. At the time, it sounded responsible. Now it sounded like a loaded weapon. I typed one more email, this time to my mother. Who gave Brittany the spare key to Grandpa's house? I stared at the screen for a full minute before I hit send because part of me still didn't want the answer. My phone rang immediately. Mom. I let it go to voicemail. Then my dad called. I let it go to voicemail too. Then Brittany called. 3 calls back to back like they were trying to overwhelm me through sheer volume. I didn't pick up. I walked into Chief Webb's office and closed the door behind me. Chief, I said, keeping my voice level, I need to let you know something before it turns into a problem. He sat back in his chair, eyes on me. Go. My sister is trying to list my grandfather's house, I said. She contacted a realtor and claimed she represents me. I have documentation. I'm flying out on leave to handle it. I'm not asking for permission, just making you aware. Chief Webb's expression didn't change much, but his eyes sharpened. You got receipts? He asked. Yes, Chief, I said. Email, photos, everything. Good, he said. Keep it that way. If it becomes noise, we handle it. That single sentence made my shoulders drop by about an inch. I wasn't alone in this, at least not in the parts of my life that actually mattered. By the time I got back to my desk, my mother had left a voicemail. Her voice was clipped, irritated. Tess, don't start acting crazy. Brittany is just trying to keep things organized. You're making this harder than it needs to be. Acting crazy. That was new. That one was designed to sting, designed to make me second-guess myself. I deleted nothing. I saved the voicemail. Then Brittany texted again. Stop going through lawyers. It's embarrassing. I stared at that message, and I actually laughed. Quietly under my breath, the kind of laugh that comes out when somebody is so wrong it becomes absurd. Embarrassing. My sister was using my grandfather's death to run a real estate hustle, and I was the embarrassing one for not playing along. I opened my airline app and double-checked my flight. Then I opened the door code app for my own apartment and changed it, because at that point, I didn't trust anyone with anything. A few minutes later, another email came in from Caleb Wexler's office. Short, direct. Do not sign anything your sister provides. Do not communicate about the estate outside my office. I will contact her directly and put her on notice. I read it twice, then felt my chest loosen just slightly. Finally, a professional adult was speaking my family's language consequences. My phone buzzed again. A text from my mother this time, no softness at all. If you keep this up, don't bother coming to the service. I stared at it for a long moment. Then I did something I'd never done in my life. I didn't feel guilty. I felt clear. I opened my calendar, confirmed my leave dates, and then I pulled up the address for a locksmith near Grandpa's house because the first thing I was going to do when I landed was make sure nobody could walk into that place like they owned it. I landed, grabbed my bag, and drove like I had a timer ticking in my skull. The house was about an hour outside the city, in a quiet neighborhood Grandpa loved, because nothing ever happened there. Neat lawns, retirees walking dogs like it was their full-time job, porch flags, the kind of place where people wave even if they don't know your name. I used to tease Grandpa about it. I'd say, "You live in a postcard." He'd say, "That's the point." When I pulled onto Willow Ridge Drive, my hands were tight on the wheel. I passed the little community mailbox cluster, the corner where Grandpa always warned me to slow down, and then I saw the house. Same pale siding, same front porch, same wind chimes he refused to take down even when they sounded like haunted keys in a storm. For 1 second I felt relief, like being here could fix something. Then I parked, got out, and saw it. A chunky black realtor lockbox hanging off the front doorknob like it belonged there. I stood still, just stared at it. The stupid little box had no right to make me feel this angry, but it did, because it meant someone had already decided the house was an item, not a home. A thing to be moved, priced, traded. I pulled out my phone and started taking pictures. Close-up of the lockbox, wide shot of the door, the street number, the mailbox. I walked back to my car and filmed a slow video from the driveway to the porch, narrating quietly like I was making a report for myself. Willow Ridge Drive. Front door, lockbox present. I did not authorize listing. It wasn't dramatic. It was documentation. I tried the doorknob. Locked. I wasn't surprised, but my stomach still dropped. Grandpa's key didn't work either. The same key I'd used for years. The key that always stuck a little because Grandpa refused to replace the lock, even after I offered. Now it slid in and turned like it was visiting a stranger. I leaned close and looked at the deadbolt. Newer, cleaner. Someone had changed the lock. I stood there for a moment, not because I didn't know what to do, but because I needed 1 second to make sure I didn't do the wrong thing. The emotional thing. The thing Brittany wanted so she could call me unstable and run to my parents like she'd survived a wild animal. So I stepped back, breathed, and did the next right step. I walked around the side yard and checked the windows. All shut. I checked the back door. Locked. I didn't break in. I didn't try to force anything. I just made a mental note of every detail, then turned around and went back to the car. Because if Brittany wanted to pretend she was being helpful, I was going to meet her where she couldn't hide paperwork. The police station was 15 minutes away. Small town building, bored-looking front desk, a faded poster about neighborhood watch. I walked in and said I need to file an incident report. The officer at the desk looked up. "What kind of incident?" "My grandfather passed," I said. "I'm the beneficiary of his house." Someone put a realtor lockbox on the door and changed the locks. I didn't authorize any of it. He blinked once, then his expression got more serious. "Do you have proof you're the beneficiary?" "I have the attorney's information and documentation on my phone," I said. "Email from the realtor. And I can provide the will details through the attorney." He nodded. "Okay, let us get a statement." I sat in a little interview room and told the story in bullet points. Not because I didn't care, but because the fastest way to be taken seriously is to be clear. My sister contacted a realtor. My sister sent interior photos. I arrived today and found a lockbox. My key no longer works. I did not authorize any listing or access. The officer wrote it down, asked me for the address, asked me if I suspected who did it. I hesitated for half a second, then said, "My sister, Brittany Callahan." He didn't react like I'd just accused someone of murder. He nodded like this was the oldest story on earth. "Family stuff gets ugly fast," he said. "That's one way to put it," I replied. He gave me a case number, told me to keep all documentation, and said if I wanted to pursue anything further, I'd need to coordinate with my attorney. That was fine. I wasn't here for a movie scene. I was here for a paper trail. When I walked out, my phone was buzzing again. Mom. Dad. Brittany. I didn't answer. I called the locksmith I'd saved in my phone. The guy who answered sounded like he'd just finished lunch. Yeah, we can get someone out today. You at the property? I'm the beneficiary, I said. Owner's deceased. Locks were changed without my authorization. He didn't ask for a life story. He just said, you have ID proof of residency or ownership. I have ID and my attorney can confirm, I said. Okay, he replied. We'll handle it. While I waited, I went down the street and knocked on the door of Grandpa's next-door neighbor, Mrs. Marlene Carter. I'd met her a few times when I visited. She was in her late 60s, always had gardening gloves on, and somehow knew everything that happened on the block without looking like she cared. She opened the door, and her face softened when she saw me. Tessa, honey. I swallowed hard. Hi, Miss Carter. She pulled me into a hug before I could say anything. I'm so sorry about Walter. Thank you, I said, and for the first time since I landed, I felt like an actual human being instead of a task list. She stepped back and looked at my face. You look tired. I am, I admitted. Her eyes flicked past me toward Grandpa's porch. I saw that lockbox, she said. I thought it was strange. Did you see who put it there? I asked. She shook her head. Not the day it went up. But I did see your sister around here earlier in the week. And there was a woman with her, looked like business. My stomach tightened. A realtor. Marlene frowned. I didn't want to assume. But Walter didn't like people snooping. I nodded. Did she go inside? Marlene's lips pressed together. I saw them go in. I saw them come out. Your sister was smiling like she'd won something. I let out a slow breath. Thank you. Marlene touched my arm. If you need me to say that to someone official, I will. I might, I said. She nodded like she'd already decided she was in my corner. Walter would want that. I went back to the house just as the locksmith pulled up. He was a stocky guy with a toolbox and zero interest in family drama. He looked at the lockbox and raised an eyebrow. You didn't put that there. Nope, I said. Yeah, he muttered. Figured. He asked for my ID, wrote down my name and got to work. He cut the lockbox off, replaced the deadbolt and handed me a new set of keys. Watching him do it was oddly calming, like seeing a wound stitched closed. As he worked, I walked inside for the first time since Grandpa died. The air smelled like him, old leather coffee, and that faint clean scent from the lemon cleaner he always used because he swore it kept ants away. The living room looked exactly like the photos Brittany sent. That made me angry all over again, but I kept moving. I walked through the hallway and into the kitchen, and that's where I saw it. A folded piece of paper on the counter right under the calendar. I picked it up. It was written in Brittany's handwriting, big and confident, like she was leaving a note for an employee. I was helping. Don't be dramatic. My jaw clenched. Helping. I stood there in Grandpa's kitchen holding that note, and I realized Brittany didn't think she was doing something wrong. She thought she was doing what she always did, taking over, then acting offended when anyone questioned her. I pulled my phone out, took a photo of the note, and set it back down exactly where it was. Then I opened my folder of receipts and saved the picture. When the locksmith finished, I paid him, got the invoice with the time and date stamped, and asked him one more question. Can you install a basic security system, I said? He nodded. I can get you set up with cameras and a smart doorbell. Won't be fancy, but it'll tell you who comes around. Perfect, I said. I don't need fancy, I need proof. As I walked back out to the porch, I glanced down at the driveway and saw something else that made my stomach flip. A small white yard sign leaning against the side of the porch steps. It wasn't staked into the ground yet, but it was printed. A real estate sign, Janet Bloom Realty. I stared at it until my eyes felt hot. Then I picked it up, carried it inside, and set it in the middle of the empty dining room, like evidence in a courtroom. My phone buzzed again, and this time I looked. Brittany, stop embarrassing everyone. Just give me the house and let's keep family harmony. I didn't respond. I took another photo this time of the sign, saved it, backed it up, and then I called Caleb Wexler's office while standing in Grandpa's living room. Because at that point, this wasn't an argument. It was a situation. And I was done letting my sister act like she outranked me in my own life. I kept the phone to my ear while I stared at that real estate sign like it was a rattlesnake in my dining room. Caleb Wexler's receptionist picked up, and I said, "This is Tessa Callahan. I'm at the property right now. There's a lockbox, the locks were changed, and there's a printed listing sign on the premises." There was a pause, the kind where you could hear someone sit up straighter. "One moment, ma'am." Caleb came on the line with the same calm voice, but it had a harder edge now. "Tess, are you safe?" "I'm fine," I said. I filed an incident report. I changed the locks. I have photos of everything. The neighbor saw Brittany bring someone over. Good, he said. Keep all receipts and invoices. Email my office the photos and the case number. I already did, I said. And I found a note from Brittany inside the house. Photograph it, he said. Done, I replied. He exhaled like he'd just watched the last thread snap. I'm sending your sister a formal notice today. She is not to contact any realtors or present herself as your representative. She is not to access the property. If she continues, we escalate. Okay, I said, and the word felt solid. After I hung up, I did a slow walk through the house. Not to soak in memories, not to cry into Grandpa's curtains. I didn't have the bandwidth for sentimental right then. I was doing a sweep. Front windows locked, back door secure. Side gate latched, spare key location gone. I checked the little rock by the back steps where Grandpa used to keep a backup because he was convinced bad guys don't check under rocks. I was not Grandpa. I checked under every rock. Then I sat at the kitchen table and made a list of what still needed doing. Change utilities to my name. Forward mail, call insurance, install cameras, document everything. 2 hours later, the locksmith came back with a basic setup. A smart doorbell camera and 2 motion-activated cameras that covered the porch and driveway. Nothing fancy, just enough to record and ping my phone if anyone came by. While he worked, I kept getting calls. Mom, Dad, Brittany. I didn't answer any of them, because every time I did in the past, it turned into the same thing. Brittany talked, my parents backed her, and I got assigned the role of difficult. No thanks. When the cameras were installed, I tested them twice. Motion alert, live feed, recording, cloud backup. Then I locked up and drove back to a cheap hotel near the highway because I wasn't staying alone in an empty house that my sister clearly felt comfortable strolling into. I ate a sad chicken sandwich in my room, opened my laptop, and started organizing files like I was prepping a case. Email from realtor. Photos Brittany sent. Invoice from locksmith. Incident report case number. Photos of lockbox and listing sign. Photo of Brittany's note. I labeled the folder in plain English Walter House documents. And then I added subfolders because I'm me. Legal, property, messages, voicemails. By 10 p.m., my brain felt like it had been sanded down, but at least my panic had somewhere to go. I fell asleep with my phone on the nightstand and the camera app already open. At 1:17 a.m. it happened. A sharp vibration, a bright screen, a notification that made my stomach drop before my eyes even focused. Front door activity detected. I sat up so fast I almost pulled a muscle. My heart wasn't racing in a dramatic way. It was cold, focused, like my body already knew what this meant. I tapped the alert. The video feed loaded and there she was. Brittany. She was standing on Grandpa's porch in a hoodie, like she was trying to blend into the night. She wasn't holding a suitcase or flowers. She wasn't there to grieve. She was there to do business. She stepped up to the doorknob and reached for where the lockbox used to be. Her hand patted the knob, then the rail, like she couldn't believe it was gone. She leaned in, squinted, then tried the knob. Locked. She tried again harder. Then she stepped back and looked around annoyed. She leaned down and checked under the welcome mat, then under the flower pot. I actually laughed, quietly into my hand. She was using Grandpa's old hiding spots like she owned the place. Then she looked up, right into the doorbell camera. Her whole face changed in half a second. Confusion first, then anger, then the tiniest flicker of fear, like she realized the game wasn't private anymore. She didn't wave. She didn't smile. She just stared at the little camera light like it had personally insulted her. Then she walked off of the porch and disappeared out of frame. I sat there in the hotel room staring at the screen, and for the first time since Grandpa died, I felt something close to relief. Not because it was over, because I had proof. My phone buzzed a minute later. A text from Brittany. Why are there cameras at Grandpa's house? I didn't respond. Another text. Are you seriously spying on me? Then a voice note came in. I didn't play it right away. I saved it, backed up the video, and wrote the timestamp down in my notes app like I was logging an incident on watch. 1:17 a.m. Brittany on porch. Tried door. Looked into camera. Then I played the voice note. Brittany's voice came through sweet at first, almost breathy, like she was auditioning for the role of concerned sister. Tess, this is getting out of hand, she said. I'm worried about you. You're acting paranoid. You put cameras on Grandpa's house like you think your own family is a threat. She paused and I could hear her inhale like she was building up to the real punch. You need to stop making this weird, she continued. You're in the Navy. You're stressed. You're not thinking straight. Let me handle it. for family harmony. There it was again. That phrase she used like a magic spell. Then her tone flipped. I swear to God, she snapped, the sweetness evaporating. If you keep this up, I'm going to tell everyone what you're really like. I'm going to tell Mom and Dad you're losing it. You think people at your base won't hear about this? You're not untouchable. I sat there holding my phone and my hand didn't shake. Because she'd just said the quiet part out loud. She wasn't trying to help. She was trying to control me, scare me, and if that didn't work, punish me. I saved the voice note. Then I took a screenshot of her texts. Then I emailed Caleb Wexler. At 1:17 a.m., Brittany attempted to access the property. Video attached. She then sent messages, and a voice note threatening to smear me and contact my workplace. Please advise next steps. I hit send and set my phone down. Less than 5 minutes later, my mom called. I didn't answer. Then my dad called. I didn't answer. Then my mom texted, "Answer your phone. Right now." I stared at it for a moment, then typed one line. Put everything in writing. I sent it and turned my phone to silent. I didn't do that to be dramatic. I did it because I know how people like my family operate. They want you on the phone so they can talk over you, twist your words, and later pretend you said something you didn't. Writing doesn't let them do that. At 8:03 a.m., Caleb replied. Short message. Clear instructions. Do not engage directly. Save all communications. We are sending a cease and desist today. If she returns, call local police immediately and reference your incident report case number. I read it twice, then opened the camera app again and re-watched the clip. Brittany on the porch, searching for the lockbox, testing the door, staring at the camera. No matter how many times my mother said she was helping, no matter how many times Brittany said I was paranoid, the video didn't care. It just showed the truth. I got dressed, packed up my laptop, and drove back toward Grandpa's house with a calm I didn't recognize. Because now I wasn't guessing what my sister was capable of. I was watching it in high definition. I pulled into Grandpa's driveway with my phone in one hand and coffee in the other, like this was a normal errand and not the start of a family dumpster fire. The cameras were still online. The new locks were still solid. The realtor sign was still sitting in my dining room like a bad joke I refused to laugh at. I walked through the house, checked the doors, checked the windows, and then sat at the kitchen table and stared at the empty chair across from me where Grandpa used to sit and ask, "So what's really going on, kid?" I didn't get to answer him, but I could hear him anyway. "Don't let them push you around." My phone buzzed. A text from my mom. "You're making this into a circus." I almost replied with, "Then stop bringing clowns." But I didn't. I'd already decided no phone fights. No emotional wrestling match where Brittany wins by exhausting everyone. I got up, opened my laptop, and drafted a short message to the realtor agency again, confirming Brittany was not authorized and attaching Caleb's contact information. I sent it, saved the sent email, and logged it in my folder. Then I did the most boring but important thing. I called the post office and submitted a change of address request for Grandpa's mail to forward to a P.O. box under my name. I called the utility companies and asked for final readings. I called the homeowner's insurance provider and updated the policy. Real-life stuff. The kind that keeps the house from quietly falling apart while people argue about who deserves it. By lunchtime, I felt like I'd been running on fumes for a week. That's when my aunt called. Not my mom's sister, my dad's sister. Aunt Karen. Yes, her name was Karen. No, she did not break the stereotype. She never called unless she wanted gossip or a favor. I answered because I was curious, and also because I'm still human. "Tess," she said, breathy, like she'd been jogging in place. What I asked? "I just want you to know," she started. "I'm staying out of it." "Great," I said. "So why are you calling?" A pause, offended that I wasn't grateful for her neutrality. "Because your mother is going around telling everyone you're refusing to help Brittany. That you're hoarding the house and the money." I laughed once, short and sharp. Brittany got $400,000. I know she hissed like that detail was inconvenient. But they're saying the house is the real inheritance. They're saying Walter was manipulated. Manipulated by who I asked. Grandpa called me every week. I couldn't manipulate him into trying a new brand of coffee. Aunt Karen ignored that. "They're telling people you're using your Navy job as an excuse to abandon family." I stared at the wall. "I don't use my job as an excuse. I use it to pay my bills." "She's posting stuff," Karen added, lowering her voice. "Your mom." "Brittany." "All of it." Where I asked, even though I already knew the answer. "Facebook," she said, like it was a courtroom. I hadn't been on Facebook in forever. I used it like a digital junk drawer. You open it, regret it, then close it. But I opened it anyway. And there it was. My mother had posted a photo of Grandpa from years ago, him holding Brittany's oldest kid at a family barbecue. She'd captioned it. Some people forget that family is a responsibility, not a competition. No names, but I might as well have been tagged in neon. Brittany posted next. A photo of her kids in church clothes smiling like a greeting card. Please pray for peace in our family. Some hearts have been hardened by greed. Then my dad, Ron, who rarely posted anything except weather complaints, shared Brittany's post with his own caption, sad to see what money does to a person. I felt my face go hot, not because I cared what strangers thought, because I knew the audience. Cousins, church friends, Grandpa's neighbors. People from my hometown who still acted like high school was happening in real time. And my family was doing what they always did, controlling the story before I could even speak. A message popped up from my cousin Jenna. Is this about Grandpa's house? Mom says you're keeping everything. I typed a response, then deleted it. Then another message from an old friend I hadn't talked to in years. Hey, your dad asked my mom to pray for you. Are you okay? I stared at that and felt something cold settle in my stomach. They weren't just mad. They were building a case. Not a legal case. A social case. A story where I was unstable, greedy, selfish, ungrateful. And Brittany was the brave mother trying to keep the family together. I closed Facebook and took a deep breath. This was the part where in my old life, I would panic and try to fix it. I would call everyone, explain myself, apologize for things I didn't do, and end up promising something just to make the noise stop. I wasn't doing that anymore. I went back to my folder and created a new subfolder, Public Slander, screenshots of Mom's post, Dad's post, Brittany's post, timestamps, URLs, everything. I didn't comment. I didn't react. I didn't post a rebuttal. I documented. My phone buzzed again. It was Brittany texting like we were still on the same team. See, this is why I told you. People are talking. Just sign the house over and it all goes away. I stared at the message and felt my mouth twist. That right there was the tell. She wasn't upset about family harmony. She was upset about losing control of the narrative. I typed one line. Stop contacting me. All communication goes through my attorney. Then I blocked her number. My hands didn't shake. My heart didn't race. It felt clean, like pulling a splinter that had been lodged in my skin for years. 2 minutes later, my mom called. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. Tess, she said slow and tight. You are humiliating this family. People are asking questions. Your sister is crying. Do you have any idea what you're doing to those kids? She said those kids like they were hostages. I saved the voicemail. Then my dad left one. His voice was low-controlled, which was worse than yelling. You think you're better than us because you wear that uniform, he said. You think you can walk away and do whatever you want. You're not the only one who knows people, Tess. Don't make this ugly. He hung up. I sat there at Grandpa's table, my phone in my hand, and I realized something that should have been obvious a long time ago. They weren't scared I was wrong. They were scared I was right and other people would see it. I stood up and walked through the house again, not checking locks this time, but grounding myself. This place was calm. The walls didn't argue. The furniture didn't gaslight me. Grandpa's old clock ticked like it always had, steady and uninterested in family politics. I walked out to the porch and saw Mrs. Marlene Carter across the street watering her plants. She looked up and waved. I waved back and she started walking over. You doing okay, honey? She asked, her eyes scanning my face like she already knew the answer. I'm handling it, I said. She nodded. Your sister came by again yesterday afternoon. She stood on the porch and talked loud, like she wanted the neighborhood to hear. I felt my stomach tighten. Did she say anything specific? Marlene's jaw set. She said you were stealing from her children. Of course she did. Marlene leaned closer. Walter talked about you all the time, she said quietly. He was proud of you. Don't let anyone rewrite that. My throat tightened, but I kept my voice steady. Thank you. She pointed toward the street. If you need me to tell anyone what I saw, I will. I might, I said. She nodded once firm. Good. I went back inside and opened my laptop again. Caleb had emailed a draft cease and desist letter addressed to Brittany. Clear language. No emotion. Just boundaries and consequences. I read it twice, then replied with one word. Send. Then I did something else I hadn't planned to do that day. I opened my Navy email and checked if anything had come in that felt off. Nothing yet. But my dad's voicemail played in my head. You're not the only one who knows people. I stared at the screen for a long moment, then typed a message to Chief Webb. Chief, heads up. My family is escalating and going public. I have documentation. If anything unusual hits our inbox, I'll bring it to you immediately. I hit send. Then I shut the laptop, walked back to the front door, and looked straight into the camera for a second, like I was reminding myself why it was there. Because my sister didn't just want the house, she wanted me to be quiet while she took it. And I was done being quiet. My phone was still on silent when I walked back into my office at Norfolk. But it felt like it was vibrating anyway, like my family's noise had seeped into the walls. I'd spent the last week doing 2 jobs at once, grieving my grandpa and building a paper fortress around his house. Locks, cameras, mail forwarding, insurance utilities, attorney emails, screenshots. If it had a timestamp, I saved it. If it didn't, I made one. And still the ugliest part wasn't the lockbox or the realtor. It was the way my parents and my sister acted like I was a problem to be managed. The first morning back on base, Chief Webb called me into his office before I even had my coffee. He didn't look angry. He looked prepared, which is worse and better at the same time. "Close the door," he said. I closed it and stood there, hands behind my back out of habit. He pointed at a chair. "Sit." I sat. He slid his keyboard around so the monitor faced me. "You recognize this?" he asked. My stomach dropped. It was an email. Printed on the screen in plain black text, no fancy formatting, no signature. Subject concern, repeat. Oh. 1. Callahan's reliability. I didn't even need to read it to know who wrote it. My family could deny it, but they couldn't hide the scent. Chief Webb watched my face, read it. I read, "To whom it may concern, I'm reaching out as a concerned member of the community. P.O. 1. Tessa Callahan is currently involved in a heated legal dispute over contested assets following a death in the family. She has demonstrated poor judgment, emotional instability, and escalating behavior. This may impact her reliability and decision-making, especially in a military environment. I believe leadership should be aware before this becomes a bigger issue. No name, no details, just enough vague garbage to plant a seed." My throat went dry. Chief Webb tapped the desk once like he was tapping a rhythm into my brain. "You expecting something like this?" I exhaled slowly. "Yes, Chief." He raised an eyebrow. "That's not a normal answer." "It's my family," I said. "They've gone public. They've been calling me unstable. I documented it. I warned you." Chief Webb leaned back, arms crossed. "Okay. Talk to me like you're writing a statement. Facts only." That was language I understood. "Yes, Chief," I said. "My grandfather passed. I'm a beneficiary. My sister tried to list his house without my authorization. I filed an incident report with local police. I changed the locks and installed cameras. I have email documentation from the realtor and video proof of my sister attempting access after I secured the property. My attorney is handling communication. My family is retaliating socially, and now apparently through anonymous email." Chief Webb nodded slowly. "You got that documentation on you?" "Yes, Chief," I said. "I can forward it." "Do it," he said. "Right now, send me the key items. Keep it clean." I pulled my laptop closer, logged into my personal folder, and attached only what mattered: the realtor's email, the incident report case number, page, the locksmith invoice, and a still frame from the camera video with the timestamp visible. No emotional messages, no Facebook screenshots, just proof that the situation wasn't poor judgment. It was harassment. While the files uploaded, Chief Webb looked at me and said, "Has your family contacted anyone else here?" "Not directly," I said, "but they've threatened it." He nodded like he'd already assumed that. "Here's how this works, Callahan. People can send anonymous nonsense all day. We don't punish sailors for having messy families. We care about performance integrity and whether you're handling your business professionally." "Yes, Chief," I said. He pointed at the email on the screen. "This is a check-in, not a charge. But if it escalates, we handle it like any other interference." Interference. That word hit me hard in a good way, because it meant he saw it for what it was. Then he said the line that made my chest loosen. "You're not alone on this base." I swallowed. "Thank you, Chief." He waved his hand like he didn't want the gratitude. "Don't thank me. Stay smart. Keep your receipts. And do not respond to provocation." "Yes, Chief." He slid the monitor back toward himself. "Now tell me, are you okay?" That question should have felt normal. It didn't. It felt like someone handed me water after I'd been choking. I didn't get dramatic. I didn't dump my whole childhood on him. I just said the truth in one sentence. "I'm tired, Chief." He nodded. "Then we keep you tired and employed, not tired and spiraling. You got duty today." "Yes, Chief." "Good. Go do your job. Let me handle the noise." I left his office and walked down the hallway with my posture straight, but my stomach still tight. Because even though Chief had my back, I hated that my family had reached into the one place I actually felt respected. By lunch, my phone had stacked up more missed calls. I didn't check the number. I didn't need to. It was always the same rotation: mom, dad Brittany, on a new number Aunt Karen, when she wanted to feel important. I ignored them and went to the galley like a normal person. Then my Navy email pinged again. Another message, this time forwarded from admin. P.O.1 Callahan, see Chief. My pulse didn't spike, but my brain got sharp. I stood up, tossed my trash, and walked back to Chief Webb's office. He didn't make me sit this time. He just handed me his phone. Listen, he said. It was a voicemail. A man's voice. Angry. Not yelling, but the kind of contained anger that tries to sound reasonable while it threatens you. This is Ron Callahan, the voice said. I'm Tessa's father. I'm calling because my daughter is making some extreme decisions right now. She's being influenced by outsiders and lawyers. I need someone in her chain of command to talk sense into her. This is a family matter, and it's affecting her judgment. I don't want it to affect her career, but it will if she keeps this up. I felt my face go hot. He really did it. He put his name on it. He called my workplace like he was reporting a faulty appliance. Chief Webb watched me carefully while the voicemail played out. Then he took the phone back and set it down. That number came in through the quarterdeck, he said. They forwarded it to me because it involved you. I forced myself to breathe. I didn't give him that number, I figured, Chief said. My hands were clenched, and I made myself relax them because I refused to be visibly shaken. Chief Webb leaned forward. Callahan, listen to me. Your father does not get to call your command and talk sense into you because you won't give your sister a house. I let out a short, humorless laugh. That's literally what he's doing. It's inappropriate, Chief said. And it's documented now. Documented, my favorite word. Chief tapped his desk again. You want to know what this voicemail is? A headache, I said. He almost smiled. It is evidence. It's a record of someone trying to interfere with your service. I swallowed. Here's what you're going to do, he continued. You're going to keep doing your job. You're going to route anything legal through your attorney. And you're going to keep me informed if there are threats, harassment, or repeated attempts to contact the command. Yes, Chief, I said. He sat back. And for your own protection, you're going to update your emergency contact information if your family is acting like this. That hit a nerve. Because my emergency contact had always been my mother. Not because she was supportive. Because that's what you do. That's what people tell you is normal. I nodded slowly. Understood. Chief's voice softened just a touch. I'm sorry you're dealing with this, but I'm glad you came to me early. Most people try to hide it until it blows up. I didn't want it to touch my career, I said. Chief gave a firm nod. Then we keep it from touching your career. I walked back to my desk and sat down, staring at my screen without seeing it. My dad's voicemail replayed in my head, talk sense into her. Like I was a teenager being grounded. Like my Navy service was a costume he could tug on to control me. My phone buzzed with the text from my mom somehow getting through from another number. We heard you dragged the police into this. Are you trying to ruin your sister's life? I stared at it for a moment. Then I opened my contacts and updated my emergency contact to someone who wouldn't use it as leverage. A close friend from my command and my chief as secondary per policy, and what I was allowed to list. Then I opened my email, forwarded my dad's voicemail details to Caleb Wexler, and wrote one sentence. My father contacted my workplace and left a voicemail attempting to pressure my chain of command. Please add this to the file. I hit send. My family could post whatever they wanted on Facebook. They could call me greedy. They could pray loudly for my hardened heart. But this crossed a line. And the funny thing about lines is, once you see one clearly, you stop pretending it isn't there. I opened my camera app and checked the live feed from Grandpa's porch again, just to ground myself in something real. The porch was empty, quiet, normal, which meant if anyone showed up, I'd know. And if anyone tried to touch my life again, my house, my name, my Navy career, I'd have the receipts ready before they even finished dialing. I opened my email and stared at Caleb Wexler's message like it was a life raft. Subject, cease and desist draft attached. I clicked it and read every line twice. No feelings, no family history, no please try to understand. Just clean language that said Brittany Callahan is not authorized to access the property, represent the owner, contact realtors, or interfere with the estate. Any future attempts may result in civil action and referral to law enforcement. It was basically the adult version of stop touching my stuff, but written in a way that makes people like my sister suddenly remember consequences exist. I forwarded it to myself, printed a copy at work, and walked straight to legal assistance. Our legal assistance office wasn't glamorous. It was fluorescent lights, a waiting area with old magazines, and people quietly stressing about leases, divorces, and bad decisions, real life. Simone Price met me in a small office with a neat desk and a face that said she'd seen every version of family drama there is. P.O.1 Callahan, she said, shaking my hand. Chief Webb gave me a heads up. Sit. I sat and handed her a folder I'd built like I was turning in an assignment. She flipped through the key documents fast. Realtor email. Incident report case number. Locksmith invoice. The still frame from the doorbell camera with Brittany's hoodie and the timestamp. The screenshots of Brittany's texts. LT. Price didn't gasp. She didn't give me pity eyes. She just nodded like, yep, this tracks. You did the right thing documenting, she said. And you did the right thing not engaging. I'm trying, I said. They're using my career as a threat now. She held up a finger. Let's separate issues. 1, estate and property harassment. 2, interference with your service. Both are serious, but they get handled differently. I nodded. She pointed at the cease and desist draft. Your attorney's draft is solid. We can reinforce it with a letter from legal assistance to make it clear you're not just being dramatic. We can also send a notice to the realtor agency confirming your sister has no authority. Yes, I said immediately. Please. LT Price's mouth twitched like she respected a woman who didn't waffle. Good. We're going to keep it clean and unemotional. That's what holds up. She pulled out a template, started typing, and asked me questions like she was building a case file, not a therapy session. Dates, times, who contacted whom, what exactly Brittany said, what my parents said, the name and contact info of the realtor, the police case number, the neighbor who witnessed access. I answered like I was standing watch. When she finished, she turned the screen toward me. Read it. The letter was short and brutal in the best way. It listed the behavior and gave Brittany one clear instruction: cease contact and cease access. Any further attempts would be treated as harassment and potential trespass. LT. Price added one line that made my stomach unclench. Any attempts to contact P.O.1 Callahan's workplace or chain of command regarding this private matter may be considered interference. My dad's voicemail suddenly looked even worse on paper. Sign here, she said, and we'll send it certified. I signed. Then she looked at me and said, now boundaries. If they call you, you don't answer. If they show up at the house, you call local police and reference the incident report. If your command gets another message, you bring it to Chief Webb. Understood. Yes, ma'am, I said. She leaned back. You'd be shocked how many people fold because they want the noise to stop. I'm not folding, I said. She nodded. Good. Because folding is how people like your sister learn that threats work. On my way out, my phone buzzed with an email from Janet Bloom Realty. Subject, confirmation of representation. I opened it and almost smiled. Janet wrote politely but firmly that their agency had been notified Brittany was not authorized, that they would not proceed with any listing activity, and that they had documented the file accordingly. She apologized again and said if anyone contacted them claiming otherwise, they'd refer them directly to my attorney. One door closed. 2 minutes later, another text came in from an unknown number. It was Brittany, obviously. Why are you doing this? You're making me look like a criminal. I didn't reply. Another text. I was trying to sell it so we could split it fairly. Grandpa didn't mean for you to keep everything. There it was, the slip. Not I was checking on the house. Not I was grabbing mail. Straight up, I was trying to sell it. I took screenshots, saved them, and forwarded them to Caleb and LT Price. Then Brittany texted again, and this one was the kind of stupid that only happens when someone is panicking. Mom said you'd cave once people pressured you. She said just do it first, then make you sign. My fingers froze for half a second, because she didn't just confess to her plan. She admitted my mother was part of it. That was the missing piece I hadn't even needed, but sure thanks, Brittany. I sent that screenshot too. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt clear. That night, I went back to my apartment, ate dinner, and for the first time in days, didn't check Facebook. Didn't check my missed calls. Didn't open the family group chat I'd muted into oblivion. I showered, I put on the clean clothes. I sat down with my laptop and updated my document folder with the new receipts. I labeled a new file, Brittany admission attempted sale, plus mom involved. Then I got an email from Caleb. Received. This is significant. We will add it to the record. Short, professional. Perfect. My phone rang at 9:46 p.m. Dad. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail anyway. Tessa! He said, voice low and furious. Your mother is crying. Brittany is humiliated. You're going to regret this. You can't treat your family like enemies. I listened to it once, saved it, and didn't replay it. Not because it didn't hurt, because it wasn't new. My family only loved me when I was useful. When I wasn't useful, they called it disrespect. I opened my phone settings, blocked my dad's number, and then blocked my mom's new number too. Then I paused, thumb hovering, because a part of me still wanted permission to protect myself. I didn't need permission. I hit block. The silence after that wasn't empty, it was clean. The next morning, I drove out to Grandpa's house with a copy of the cease and desist letter in my bag, like a security blanket made of legal paper. The neighborhood was quiet. The porch was empty. The camera feed was calm. I walked through the house, checked the locks, and then sat down in Grandpa's recliner for the first time since all of this started. It creaked under me like it always did. I looked around the living room at the things Brittany had photographed, like props, the lamp, the bookshelf, the coffee table with a ring stain Grandpa never bothered to fix. And that's when I noticed something I hadn't seen before. A framed photo tucked behind a stack of magazines on the bottom shelf. It was me and Grandpa. We were sitting on the porch, both squinting in the sun, and Grandpa had his arm around my shoulder like it belonged there. Like I belonged there. I picked it up and stared at it for a long moment. Not crying, not spiraling, just letting it land. Because that photo was the whole point. Grandpa didn't leave me a house because he hated Brittany. He left it to me because he knew I'd protect it. And because in his quiet way, he was protecting me too. My phone buzzed once more, an email notification, not a call. Certified mail confirmation. Brittany Callahan delivered. I set the phone down on the coffee table, placed the photo carefully back where I found it, and stood up. Then I walked to the front door and checked the camera app again, because the only thing better than peace is peace with a timestamp. I set Grandpa's photo on the kitchen counter, stared at it for one more second, then put it face down in my bag, like I was protecting it from the rest of my life. I didn't have time to sit and feel things. I had time to make sure nobody could walk in here and treat his home like a garage sale. Over the next few weeks, I did the most unglamorous kind of healing chores. I cleared out the fridge. I changed the air filters. I hired someone to service the HVAC. Because Grandpa always said, it still blows cold, which is not a maintenance plan. I pulled weeds out front. I fixed a loose porch rail. I replaced a dead smoke detector battery that had been chirping like a tiny demon. It wasn't a renovation show. It was basic ownership. But every small thing I fixed felt like I was reclaiming space my family tried to steal. Meanwhile, the cease and desist did what it was supposed to do. It didn't magically make Brittany a better person, but it made her more careful. She stopped calling from random numbers. She stopped contacting realtors. She stopped pretending she could bully professionals into breaking policy. So she moved to her favorite tool image. She couldn't take the house, so she tried to take the story back. My Aunt Karen sent me a screenshot one morning with no message like a cowardly courier. Brittany had posted a new status. I'm choosing grace. I'm choosing peace. I'm choosing to protect my children from negativity. It was the most Brittany sentence ever. A performance disguised as maturity. I didn't respond. I didn't even open Facebook. I was done feeding their audience. But I did keep building my record. I kept my attorney updated. I kept Chief Webb updated, if anything even smelled like command interference. I kept receipts. I kept the house locked down like it was an armory. And I made one choice that surprised even me. I posted exactly one thing. Not about Brittany, not about my parents, not about the lockbox or the cameras or the police report. Just a photo of Grandpa's porch at sunset, the wind chimes hanging the old swing still there. Caption, miss you, Grandpa. Thanks for always calling. I'm taking care of your place. That was it. No drama, no family betrayal, no public trial. Just truth. I posted it on my own page, not shared in any group. I figured maybe a few friends from base would see it, and that would be the end. It wasn't. Within an hour, messages started coming in. Not from my family. From people who knew Grandpa. Mrs. Palmer from his old church messaged, he talked about you all the time. A guy named Steve, who used to help Grandpa with fishing gear, wrote Walter was proud of you. Don't let anyone tell you different. Even Janet Bloom, the realtor, sent a short note. I'm sorry you're dealing with that. I'm glad you're protecting the property. That one made me laugh. Imagine your sister being so out of pocket that a realtor becomes part of your support system. Brittany saw the post, of course. Brittany watched everything, probably with popcorn. She didn't comment directly. She did something more Brittany. She drove to the house. I found out from the camera alert first. Driveway motion detected. I was at my apartment in Norfolk, sitting at my kitchen table, eating cereal out of the box like an adult with her life together. My phone lit up. I opened the feed. Brittany's SUV pulled into the driveway like she was arriving for Thanksgiving dinner. She got out wearing sunglasses and carrying nothing, which told me everything. This wasn't a visit. It was a statement. She walked up to the porch, looked straight at the camera, and put her hands on her hips. Even through video, I could read her mouth. Really? Then she rang the doorbell. I didn't answer. Obviously. I wasn't driving an hour just to get yelled at on my own porch. She rang it again. Then she started talking loud enough that the microphone picked up pieces. "This is ridiculous," she said. "This is our family home. Of course." Then she stepped closer and said slower, like she was speaking to a child. "You can't keep this from my kids." I watched her pace, looking around like she wanted someone to come outside and witness her being wronged. And that's when Mrs. Marlene Carter appeared. She walked up from next door in her gardening gloves, like she'd been summoned by nonsense. She didn't wave. She didn't smile. She stood at the bottom of the porch steps, looked Brittany up and down, and said something the mic caught perfectly. "No, it's not." Brittany froze, then turned like she couldn't believe she was being corrected by a neighbor. "Yes, it is," Brittany snapped. "It's family property." Marlene didn't raise her voice. She didn't get dramatic. She just pointed at the door like she was pointing at reality. "Walter left it to Tessa," she said. "And you know it." Brittany laughed sharp and fake. "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about." Marlene didn't flinch. "I know what I saw. I saw you come with that realtor. I saw you take pictures inside. I saw you put that lockbox on the door." Brittany's face changed. Her mouth opened, then closed. She looked toward the street like she was checking who might be watching. And I realized that was her real fear. Not being wrong, being seen. Brittany snapped, "You're lying!" Marlene leaned in slightly, still calm. "Honey, I'm old. I don't lie for fun." I covered my mouth to stop myself from laughing out loud. Brittany turned back toward the camera and yelled, "Tessa, you're hiding in there like a coward." Marlene stepped closer. "She's not hiding. She's smart. She doesn't owe you anything." That last line hit hard. Because it wasn't even about the house anymore. It was about my entire life. Brittany spun on her heel, got back into her SUV, and peeled out of the driveway like she was late to a court hearing. The camera caught her taillights disappearing down the street. Then Marlene walked up to the porch, looked right into the camera, and gave a small nod. Like she was telling me, I'm here. I saved the clip, backed it up, and emailed it to Caleb with one sentence. Brittany returned to the property today. Neighbor witnessed and confronted, video attached. Then I sat back in my chair, cereal forgotten, and felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Not victory, relief. Because Brittany had spent years making sure I looked like the unreasonable one. And now, someone else had said it out loud on my porch on camera in plain English. "She doesn't owe you anything." My phone buzzed again. A new message from Brittany came through on WhatsApp, because apparently she was collecting apps like excuses. "You're turning everyone against me." I stared at it, then typed my response carefully. "You did that yourself." I didn't send anything else. I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I just opened my camera app one more time, looked at the quiet porch, and let the silence do what it does best. Tell the truth. I stared at Brittany's WhatsApp message for a second, then deleted the app like it had a virus. I didn't do it to be petty. I did it because I was done letting my sister rent space in my pocket. The house was quiet. My work life was steady again. The only reason my heart still felt tight sometimes was because my family kept trying to sneak back in through whatever crack they could find. So I sealed the cracks. I went back out to Grandpa's house the following weekend with a checklist and zero patience. First, paperwork. I met Caleb Wexler at his office and signed the last of the transfer documents. Deed recorded. Utilities confirmed. Insurance updated. Mail forwarded. Everything filed properly, no loose ends. Caleb leaned back in his chair after I signed and said, "Your sister has not responded to the cease and desist." "Good," I said. He nodded. "And for your peace of mind, we have documentation of delivery and your incident report on file. If she returns to the property again, you call police, reference the case number, and we move forward from there." In plain English, I said, "She messes around again, she finds out." Caleb's mouth twitched. "That is the general idea." Second, security. I upgraded the cameras. I added a driveway camera that caught license plates clearly enough to be useful. I installed better exterior lights and replaced the old back door lock that Grandpa kept meaning to fix. Third, the boring adult stuff nobody posts about. I set up a separate bank account for house expenses. I labeled it House Taxes/Repairs. so I wouldn't accidentally spend insurance money on something dumb like another coffee machine. I scheduled a home inspection, not because I thought the place was falling apart, but because Grandpa was the kind of man who'd tape a problem down and call it handled. I needed to know what I was inheriting beyond the porch swing and warm memories. The inspector found small things, minor roofware and outlet, that needed updating: a leaky faucet under the guest bathroom sink. Nothing terrifying, nothing Hollywood, just normal house reality. I fixed them one by one, and with each fix, the house felt less like a battlefield and more like mine. Meanwhile, back on base, Chief Webb kept his word. No more anonymous emails came in. No more weird concerned community member nonsense. My performance was clean. My evaluation stayed focused on work, not family chaos. The command didn't treat me like a problem because I didn't act like one. One afternoon, Chief Webb called me into his office again. This time, he had a small grin, which on his face was basically a standing ovation. "You're up for a billet shift next quarter," he said, sliding a paper across the desk. "Bigger responsibility, bigger visibility. You've earned it." I read the paper, then looked up. "Yes, Chief?" He nodded. "Keep doing what you're doing." I walked out of his office and felt something settle in my chest that had nothing to do with revenge. Stability. The one thing my family always acted like I didn't deserve. That night, my mom emailed me. Not texted, not called, emailed like she was trying to sound civilized. Subject: "We miss you." The body was short and carefully vague. "Tessa, we've been praying a lot. Your sister's kids ask about you. We miss you. We don't want this to tear the family apart. Please call." No apology, no accountability, no "we were wrong to threaten you." Just a gentle attempt to pull me back into the same dynamic with a softer voice. I didn't respond immediately. I let it sit while I made dinner and ate like a normal person who wasn't being emotionally blackmailed. Then I opened a blank document on my laptop and typed a reply not to send yet, just to see how it felt. "Mom, I'm not discussing the house. Grandpa's decisions are final. If you want a relationship with me, it starts with respect. No threats, no pressure. No using my job or your grandkids as leverage." I read it once, then copied it into an email reply. I didn't add love. I didn't add "I'm sorry." I didn't add anything that gave her a handle to twist. I hit send. My phone didn't explode. The sky didn't fall. Nobody showed up with a marching band and a guilt certificate. It was quiet. The next day, my dad called from a blocked number. I didn't answer. A voicemail came through anyway. "Tessa," he said, voice tight. "You think you can cut us off and still call yourself family? You're being cruel." Cruel. I stared at the voicemail screen and actually smiled, because cruelty is what they call boundaries when they're used to you having none. I saved the voicemail, forwarded it to Caleb for the file, and then blocked the number pattern through my carrier settings. Then I did the last thing I needed to do to make this real. I planted a tree. It wasn't dramatic. No ceremony, no crowd. Just me, a shovel, and a small sugar maple in the backyard, where Grandpa used to stand with his hands on his hips and complain about squirrels like they were a criminal enterprise. I dug the hole, dropped the roots in, packed the dirt down, and watered it until the soil went dark. I stood there with muddy hands, sweating under the afternoon sun, and looked up at the house. Grandpa's house. My house. And I thought about that day in the attorney's office. Brittany's voice, all confident and righteous. "You owe me Grandpa's house because I have a family." I didn't owe her anything. Not because I hated her, not because I wanted to win. Because Grandpa's house was never about family harmony. It was about control. It was about my sister believing she had authority over me just because my parents gave her that invisible crown. And now she didn't. I walked inside, washed my hands, and took Grandpa's photo out of my bag. I put it on the bookshelf in the living room, where I could see it every time I walked past. Then I did something simple. I made the house feel lived in. I bought a new set of sheets for the guest room. I replaced the old kitchen towels Grandpa had kept since the Stone Age. I hung one framed picture in the hallway, nothing fancy, just a print of the ocean that made me feel like home. The house didn't need to become a museum. Grandpa wouldn't have wanted that. He wanted it cared for. He wanted it protected. He wanted it to keep being a place where someone could breathe. A week later, Brittany sent one last message through email. It was short, sharp, and predictable. "I hope you're happy. You ruined everything. All you had to do was keep peace." I stared at it for a long moment and felt nothing, not rage, not sadness, not guilt. Just clarity. I didn't reply. Because the truth was I was happy. Not in a loud way. Not in a look-at-me way. In the quiet way that matters. My career was intact. My name was intact. My home was secure. And my family's favorite weapon, guilt, didn't work anymore. I locked the front door that night, checked the camera feed out of habit, and turned off the lights. Forgiveness isn't access, and family harmony isn't a reason to steal. I'm not telling this story because I want strangers to hate my sister or pick sides in my family drama. I'm telling it because some people grow up thinking family harmony means staying quiet while someone takes what's yours. And if you've ever been the one expected to surrender just to keep the peace, you already know how that ends. In my case, the house wasn't just an inheritance. It was proof that someone saw me clearly and trusted me to protect what mattered. I didn't win by yelling. I won by staying steady, keeping receipts, and choosing my own life while still serving in the Navy and refusing to let family revenge stories spill into my career. If this hit home for you, subscribe to the channel. I share real-world family revenge stories and family drama like this, simple, honest, and straight to the point, so you can feel less alone and walk away with something useful. 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 Away with something useful.